All right, we are back here on the Big Orange Podcast. I'm Charlie Burris. That is Zach Reagan, and we come to you in a circumstance where we didn't really want to be, but it is what it is. The Tennessee Volunteers get bounced out of the College World Series by LSU, and we're gonna talk about it. I could frame it a different way. I'll put it this way: football season is here, folks. It's time to turn to football. And realistically, I mean, what is it, like a month till SEC Media Day? So it's really not that far off. But what's up, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee baseball didn't get to where we wanted them to go, but they took us to June 20th, basically June 21st. With the fallout from last night's game. So I think from a football perspective, they pretty much did their job. It would have been nice to extend it another few days out there in Omaha, but they gave us something to root for, some fun moments in May and June, and what prior to Tony Vitello arriving in Knoxville was a pretty not a lot going on, a couple of months for Tennessee sports, but it's made Tennessee fandom, relevant and giving them a reason to be excited in the spring months. So I think you got to appreciate that, Vitello, and I'm sure we'll get into that a little further here.
Absolutely. I mean, it was a lot of fun getting there. You did something you haven't done in 22 years. You got to give credit where it's due all the way around. An incredible coaching job by Vitello. Ultimately, let's start off by just talking about what happened in the actual game. It was just abysmal. I mean, really, and it wasn't even the toughest thing is that you walk away, and I don't know how you analyze this game any other way other than Tennessee really did this to themselves. Just across the board, it was mistake, 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 just one after another. And I mean, you basically got to the point. I think, really realistically, if Tennessee capitalized on every opportunity that they had in that game in the ninth inning, worst case scenario, in the ninth inning, it's 5-5. I think that realistically, you would have had a score somewhere around there. Maybe you're down a run, but you would have had 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 runs in that game if you would have capitalized on every opportunity that was presented to you. They stranded, I think, by the end, 9, maybe more runners. That was the last number I saw. And it was the definition of shooting yourself in the foot. And that is what really, really pains me, because LSU, I mean, they put this kid on the mound that literally had never started a game at LSU. And of course, is that not the Tennesseeist thing to have happen? He comes in there and he just shells you, just absolutely rocks you. And that, it was also just the season in a nutshell too. I mean, they reverted back to kind of the regular season where pitching was just holding on for dear life, just begging for the bats. Please do something. We're holding these guys to 2 runs. Can you please just come on? And just literally nothing. Literally nothing. You scored 0 runs, and that's, yes, we can decompress on the season as a whole in a second, but in that particular game, that is just, I just want to vomit. It was bad.
Yeah, I think we saw in that game that, this team had the talent to go win a championship. You saw that in the Stanford game. They kind of had that moment, or a couple of those games, the Clemson game, the Southern Miss game, to even get to Omaha. And I don't want to be too down on this team, but there are teams that get to Omaha that, have a legitimate chance to win. Like they have everything going for them. They have the right energy. They've caught fire at the right time. And I feel like Tennessee was on the cusp of that, but they weren't quite there, because the mistakes you saw last night were mistakes that a team that's going to win the College World Series just doesn't make. They didn't capitalize on some of those situations. There's too many, called third strike looking. And I've heard the complaints about the umpires, this whole time in Omaha. And that stuff goes both ways. And when it's 2 strikes, that ball that's 2 or 3 inches off the plate, if that, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a ball or a strike. If you're up there as a hitter, you can't be looking to see if it's a ball or a strike. It's, can I hit this ball? Do I need to foul it off to stay alive? I mean, you just know in that situation, you can't take pitches there. You go down swinging, that's one thing. It's frustrating, but to go down looking in some of those situations is it's frustrating for a fan. It's frustrating for a player, for teammates. those types of mistakes that they made, some of the base running stuff that we saw, and that goes, onto the coaching staff as well. Your third base coach, a couple of blunders in these last two games that luckily the one against Stanford didn't cost you. I mean, it's just all around. They just didn't quite put it all together to have this championship run. And that's not throwing shade at this team at all. I mean, it is a hard thing to do to get to Omaha in the first place and then to win it all, to have everything going for you. That's not just something that you can easily do. And I'm sure they did everything they could to get there, and they just came up short. But I don't think it's any reason for fans to be disappointed, down, mad at Tony Vitello, mad at the program, frustrated, maybe disappointed. Yeah, I can see all those things, but I don't see anger being an acceptable response really to this.
Yeah, I'll squabble with situational decisions. The third base coach, and it's bad, and I'm sure they're going to grapple with that in this off season. And I'll kind of leave it there. Am I going to call for the guy's head, something like that? No, I actually had somebody say that to me last night. Immediately after it happened, I tweeted about it, and someone just said, fire him. I don't know if it's that bad. Elander's done a lot of good stuff at Tennessee, but situational stuff I'll squabble. I don't think Vitello shouldn't have taken out AJ Russell, and I think that was a major mistake. There's stuff like that, but ultimately, that game singularly is really disappointing. But to move to talking about the season as a whole, I mean, what a coaching job by Vitello, because you come in obviously way overhyped, much more hyped than you should have been after losing your entire lineup. And then the pitching, when you look at the season in aggregate, lived up to a lot of its billing. It really did. You had some real dudes on the mound, and you came into the College World Series with the best bullpen in America ultimately. I mean, I think had you made it all the way through, that would have held true. And that's great, but the hitting was just never there from front to back. You had moments. Yep, it was never there. And for that to be the case, and for you to make it to be, essentially finish 5th overall in all of college baseball this season, I'm just not. I don't walk away jumping for joy, and that was amazing. The thing that was amazing was winning a College World Series game for the first time in 22 years. Ecstatic about that. That really is an incredible accomplishment that Vitello should be lauded for. That's great. I mean, and at this point, give the man the raise, give the man whatever he wants for this baseball stadium. You need it for recruiting at this point. But outside of that, just looking at the season as a whole, it disappointing on the front end, because you clearly weren't as good as you were hyped up to be. But then you really get it back together, and you finish the season better than you thought you were going to from the lowest point of the season. It's weird. It was a weird year, and you walk away and you just go, hopefully that was a rebuilding season. And in a rebuilding season, you finished 5th overall in all of college baseball, and hey, I'll take it.
Do you think we're not looking at this season the right way? Do you think it should be celebrated more, and really, how will it be remembered compared to the 2021 and 2022 teams, where so much of the season was such a drain as a fan? But if you take away those preseason expectations and you frame this team differently back in February, where it's, how are the Vols going to replace Drew Gilbert and Jordan Beck and Trey Lipscomb and all these players that they lost, Ortega? And I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, their whole starting lineup, how are they going to manage to replace all these players? Can Vitello do it? And then you get off to this rough start, and then you kind of make the run, find your footing, get to Omaha. I feel like the season would be viewed a lot differently if not for the 2021 and 2022 teams that preceded this team. And I don't know if that's fair to the 2023 team.
Without the history of the last 2 seasons, this is considered one of the great baseball teams of all time at Tennessee. Because you did something you haven't done in 22 years. Given the context of the last 2 seasons, it tracks with those 2 seasons. You made the College World Series 2 years ago. You had, according to a bunch of college baseball analysts during the regular season, one of the greatest regular seasons in the history of college baseball. And that's really
and
cool.
Won an SEC tournament, which I feel like people completely kind of forget about last season. I mean, not everybody, but it does seem like that gets omitted a little bit when talking about Vitello.
Absolutely, which is something that Tennessee hadn't done in a really long time also. And so, I mean, Vitello keeps stacking up these accomplishments where it's almost like you're kind of you're chipping away to that national championship. It feels like. I mean, that's the next thing. Let's
Mhm.
be completely honest. That's now Vitello is at the point where the only thing he hasn't done for this squad is win a national title, and that's that's a super high expectation. But it's also the expectation that he's created. He's getting top five. I mean, I think on some services, the number one recruiting class in America this coming year. He's, recruiting at an extremely elite level. He's getting transfers at an extremely elite level, and he's winning games at an elite level. And so the next thing is the national championship. I mean, that's the way you have to look at it, I think. And I mean, Vitello should be celebrated for that. It's an unbelievable coaching job that he has done at Tennessee to turn this thing around. Because it would have been an accomplishment for him to turn it into just like making it into the NCAA tournament again and just getting it to that really serviceable level. That would have been an accomplishment. It wouldn't have been super impressive, but it would have been something because Tennessee was really stinking before he showed up, and he's turned them into a legitimate powerhouse, making it to 2 out of 3 College World Series and just all of these things that he's done. So I I said it last night like this. I have nothing negative to say about what happened in the season, and I have a lot of positive to say. Again, one of the as far as the job that Vitello did turning this train around, absolutely incredible. Truly, a really incredible coaching job. But also, it just hurts to get that close to a national championship at this point. Given the history of the last 3 years, it just is so painful to be that close and lose. Period. There's just no way to sugarcoat that. It just sucks. And it really sucks when you did it the way you did it last night, where you were just beating yourself. That it just blows. And I mean, that's just going to take a little bit to get over. But I think ultimately, if Tony stays on the same trajectory, this season will be remembered fondly and really be remembered, hopefully, as a nice stepping stone to what will ultimately be national titles for this guy.
Yeah, I think moving forward, I can't say that like, okay, national title is the expectation for Tennessee moving forward under Tony Vitello, or it has to happen for him to be, earn his keep as one of the elite coaches in the country. It's such a hard thing to do. I mean, Paul Maneri just retired from LSU a couple of years ago and was one of the great college baseball coaches and only had one on his resume. But I think you've got to obviously you got to make the tournament every single year. I think you miss it once every now and then. It might happen. You just don't know what happens, transpires in a baseball season. Maybe you don't have the pitching that you thought you're going to have. Or they show up on campus and they just don't have it. I mean, it's pitching, recruiting baseball is a lot different than recruiting some other sports because it's so mental. I think you start missing in back-to-back years, that's an issue. But I think you've got to pretty much get to a tournament every year, get to the College World Series. I mean, I don't really know what the expectation there should be because this is kind of uncharted territory for Tennessee. Where so between us, you got to make it every 2 years, every 3 years. Like, what's fair? What's a fair expectation there for getting to Omaha?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost just like now he set the standard. The
Yeah.
conversation kind of needs to change. The standard is set, and now we're going to hold him to that and see how he does. And that's how I feel at the moment. I don't in no way do I want to be negative about anything that happened this season. It was a great accomplishment, truly. Uh, and and I just walk away going, all right, well now you've again Vitello has done this with the way that he's performed. The standard is set at College World Series and competing at the highest levels of the SEC, which is the best league in all of college baseball by a long shot. And that's the way we have to view it. I don't see another way to do it. But uh, I'll say we're going to finish with a little bit of recruiting talk, Zach, because Tennessee, I will say, Josh Heupel took a little bit of the sting off of this loss, thankfully, with a couple of recruiting wins that we're going to discuss in just a second. But anything else with baseball before we finish with that?
No, I mean it's going to be interesting to see how this team kind of evolves over the next couple of months, moving into the 2024 version of Tennessee. Who stays, who goes? Already heard some transfer portal rumors. I don't want to put anything out there too much, but it does seem like there might be some movement. But that could mean players coming in to the program as well. So it'll be
Yep.
interesting to see how everything evolves over the next couple of months.
Yeah, we'll just have to see. And we'll be tracking all of that, and we'll talk about any transfers do happen and if there is any major news there, we'll discuss it. But let's get to this recruiting piece right after I tell you about the great sponsor of this segment, Omaha Steaks. Summer is here. Time to sit back and unwind with Omaha Steaks, perfectly aged, always tender, and guaranteed delicious. Omaha Steaks is sharing an amazing limited time offer. When you go to omahasteaks.com and enter keyword VOLS, that is VOLS, into the search bar, you'll be able to order the Gourmet Grill Pack for just $99.99. Plus, with the Gourmet Grill Pack, you'll get 8 free Omaha Steaks burgers when you order. These burgers are seriously, they're so good. I've had them multiple times now, and they are extremely good. Go get this offer. It's so great. 4 bacon wrapped fillets, 4 premium air chilled chicken breasts, 4 boneless pork chops, 4 gourmet jumbo franks, 4 made from scratch caramel apple tartlets, Omaha steak seasoning, and of course the 8 free Omaha Steaks burgers. Omaha Steaks is not just steak, it's the best steak of your life. Guaranteed. Don't wait. Go to omahasteaks.com and type in Vols into the search bar, VOLS, and order the Gourmet Grill Pack today. That is omahasteaks.com, keyword Vols. Just $99.99. You get that amazing deal. Do it right now. All right, let's finish with this. That loss hurt. We all watched it, and that stinks. At the same time, Josh Heupel is over here recruiting his butt off, and really doing us all a favor in this time where we're wishing we were still playing for a national title in baseball. Jordan Burns, 3 to 4 star player. So in the 247 Sports composite, he's a 4-star. According to 247 Sports alone, he's a 3-star linebacker. He commits to Tennessee yesterday. That's a really nice pickup. And then today, on Wednesday, Max Anderson, an offensive lineman, is a 4-star in the 247 Sports composite and a 4-star according to 247 Sports. He commits to Tennessee, and these are just some really, really nice pickups for the class of 2024. I'll throw it to you, Zach, because you've looked at a little bit more of this today than I have. But what's the deal with these guys?
Yeah, it seems like a couple of nice, like you said, nice solid pickups for Tennessee. Not really the big names that Tennessee's kind of been out there in the media that Tennessee's pursuing, but you had a couple of 4-star guys that, those are the type of guys that make impacts. Those are most likely the guys that end up in the NFL or the 4-star recruits that you end up landing. So Jordan Burns, linebacker, who could really play any of the linebacker positions at Tennessee. I know he said they've talked to him about playing off the edge, or he could play middle linebacker. It seems like, just more options for that defensive side of the ball where you can have some depth and maybe a guy can step up and be a playmaker for you. And then Max Anderson is he's from Texas, 4-star offensive tackle, probably going to play guard at Tennessee. He's a big kid, over 300 pounds already. He's higher rated than Boo Carter, who had just committed last week. Overall, I think he's almost a top 200 player, 201 according to 247 Sports composite. So a really solid pickup. I think he's now the, fifth highest rated player in Tennessee's 2024 class. So kind of maybe an under the radar pickup, maybe just because it's a random Wednesday in June. Not a guy you've heard a lot about, but probably a pretty solid pickup that could play some significant snaps for Tennessee in the future.
I love both of these, and they're not in that class where people, they've been upset. Oh, we're just recruiting 3 stars, and you've heard people kind of him and hawing a little bit. That neither of these are that. And yeah, I think this, honestly, it's really good, and hopefully it's leading to more elite pickups, because you've seen Boo Carter in particular. He's tweeting and other recruits now along with him, but tweeting to try to recruit some of these elite guys. And thankfully you have guys in this class that are taking over that role that Nico sort of played in the last class, where they're going out trying to recruit. I mean, was it Omari Thomas that was tweeting at somebody? I saw that on Twitter, but trying to recruit somebody on Twitter. So you keeping the machine rolling. I love this. I love this pickup, both these, and just keep going. You're doing good. Josh, where? Let's see. Where are they? Where's
11th, according to
11th?
24/7 Sports. So there's been some movement above them. They were down all the way to 15th at one point, so they're kind of climbing back up. And they landed a couple of their big targets. They can get up close to a top 5 class possibly in this recruiting cycle, which is where they need to be. That 5 to 10 range. Anything in the 5 to 10 range, I'm pretty happy with. You want better than top 10, of course, but I feel like top 10 is kind of like the bare minimum that you have to recruit to be getting into this, especially the expanded playoff coming.
I mean, I like to look at that average player rating number, and currently for Tennessee, it's 90.57. That is almost as high as Michigan at number 2 at
Yeah, and Tennessee's
90.71.
been way below that before at times, so they are landing higher quality players on average. I feel like they're getting more 4-star players than they used to. It used to feel like there was a pretty solid mix of 4 and 3-star guys, maybe more 3-star players. It seems like they're, the quality's going up a bit.
Yeah, I mean, at LSU, the average player rating is 90.06. So it's high. Tennessee's class currently is higher than that.
And
And
LSU does
actually,
that without recruiting outside of the state half the time. It's not really fair, the advantages they have.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. But you even said number 11, but actually that must have changed since you looked at it because it's number 9.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah, sometimes they take a bit to update that. So.
Yeah.
And I'll say this about the Max Anderson kid. I thought this was a pretty interesting little tidbit, is that he took an official visit to Tennessee June 9th weekend, 2 weekends ago. This past weekend, he was at Oklahoma for his official visit there. 5 days after that official visit to Oklahoma, or a few days after that official visit to Oklahoma, commits to Tennessee. So pretty impressive. You don't see a lot of times you get a commitment from a kid coming off an official visit to another program. I think that's something worth noting for Tennessee.
Well, hopefully it's all leading up to getting some of these 5 stars that you're pursuing. A Mike Matthews. I know I saw Williams Winery. That one seems a little dicey. It's almost like nobody knows what's the deal with that kid.
Yeah,
but
I think Georgia might end up being a pretty serious threat there.
Well, either way, time will tell. We'll talk about it. Cross that bridge when it comes, but I think that is it. Charlie Burris, Zach Reagan, the A to Z Sports Big Orange podcast. We hadn't done a midweek segment in a while. This is good. Getting back talking more Tennessee, more than just the Monday. It's always fun. So I think that's it. Thanks to everybody for listening. We really, really appreciate it. And we'll talk to all y'all next week.
See you guys later.